Char Margolis, Char Communications Incorporated, and CharVision LLC do not endorse or offer for any purpose but entertainment the views of any guest or other expert on CharVision or UBN.
I knew things before they happened from the time I was a child. At the age of 8, I saw a spirit at the foot of my bed and didn't know what it was. And in my 20s, I finally realized I had a special ability that could help others. I have learned that love never dies. There is a spirit world that can communicate with us, and we all have the gift of intuition. Join me, and together we will explore the possibilities of the unknown from beyond and more. This is CharVision. Hi everybody, welcome back to CharVision. I hope you had a great week. And today I have a wonderful guest. His name is Martin Gray, and he is an expert in sacred places. And I'm fascinated to learn all about this. Welcome, Martin.
Hello, thanks for calling me up, arranging this.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure. I mean, you've traveled the world doing this. You've just been everywhere taking pictures and doing documentaries.
When people say I've been everywhere, often I say close to.
Close to. And what makes a place a sacred place?
Oh boy, that's a big question. On my website, sacredsites.com, I talk about 32 different types, 32, and then I analyze, well, what is it that causes a place to have a power? What are some of the factors that contribite to that?
And what are those?
There's actually 20 different factors that contribute to the power of place. Some places will have 3 or 4 of those factors. Some will have only 1. But there's different factors that explain the sort of density of holiness that saturates and surrounds these places. There's something there.
Yeah.
There is definitely something there. So then we have to say, okay, what causes that, whatever it is, what causes that? And that's what, over 30 years, now I've been doing this for 30 years in over 150 countries. I've read a great number of books, around 3,000, and I've looked at all these places and I've thought about it really deeply, and I've come to the conclusion that there's no single quality or energy that explains it. So no single answer, but a variety.
Okay, but every place has its own unique energy, right?
Absolutely.
Just like every person has their own unique energy.
Yeah, but that's a really good question, because you can compare it to the acupuncture meridians on the body. There's a bunch of acupuncture points, but they're arranged on certain meridians. Each meridian has a specificity of quality, energy, characteristic, and all the points along that meridian have slightly different energies of that particular quality of energy that meridian system represents. Same on the planet, but it's older, bigger, more complex. So that's very, very interesting. So if you look at some of the sacred sites, a very important thing to consider from the beginning is, what is the myth? What is the ancient story? What is it saying?
Right.
And when you get good at reading the myths, when you get good at understanding the keys, the hidden messages in the myth, you'll see, oh, the myth is telling me, is it a yin or a yang, a feminine or a masculine point? And then when you get Hinduism, you get this rich collection of deities that never existed, but they're metaphors. They indicate the specific quality of each individual site. What did Shiva do at a certain place? What did Saraswati do at a certain place? Not just, oh, it's another Saraswati temple, but what did she do there? And it's a metaphorical indication of how some people will be affected by the energy at particular sites.
And have you ever been to a site where you felt that the energy was not true to the story?
I wouldn't say that it was not true to the story. What I'd say is we have to look at how do these stories come into being. And basically you have a place, and in pre-colonial times when people were just going by burros or maybe horses or camels or carts, people didn't go a long way. But when they did go to some place, it was many, many months or years, and then they came back and they would tell stories that there was no writing, so they would become encoded in folklore and local myth.
Right.
And when you have a number of people from different regions coming to a place and they're leaving those same sort of traces in the folklore of their region, over hundreds or thousands of years it will develop a myth, a legend that is repeated then in a wider area, and that gives rise to the place becoming a regional pilgrimage site. So I will look at what is said about it, and sometimes you have to get good at this, and you have to, yes, you have to get good at this, but I will see, there's something being said about the quality or the nature of the energy at that place. And then because I consider myself sort of an archivist, because I've done about 800 of these sites in 150 countries, as I'm an archivist of it, even if I'm not personally attracted to it or experience anything when I'm at it, I still go to gather these photographs and then write about them to share it with people for this particular reason. And that is that there are people on this planet who are going through something in their own spiritual development now that would somehow, I can't say exactly how, be benefited by the person going to that site and plugging into the energy, the quality at that place. Just like you plug something into the wall and it's charged, there's an energy current moving there. When people go to these sites, they plug into the site, and the energy of the earth there somehow, and I'm using indistinct words because I am not sure, but I know this happens. It happens all over the world and it's done it for 10,000 years. And if people understand that now, more and more people will start going, and it's going to start this Gaian age of pilgrimage. All the past pilgrimage ages have been around particular religious structures, but you're going to see something now like people like me and a lot of the people listening to this station, they go to these not because they're Buddhists or Hindus or Christians. They're going because they're somehow pulled to it, compelled to visit these places. And that, in the age of Gaia coming up, you're going to see much, much, much of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And do you believe that the people that gather at these places, these pilgrimage, the energy of each person leaves energy at the place to help enhance the energy of the place? Absolutely.
Just think of the metaphor or the comparison of a photograph. You press the shutter on a camera, and the shutter is open for 1,000th of a second, a 500th of a second, and yet there's a trace of that sight. The visual energy comes, those photons, and they impact on that plane, that film plane, and there's a memory, that itty-bitty little piece of the film, which is just Earth, right? The film is made from the Earth. That little piece of Earth, light comes through for 1,000th of a second, and that piece of Earth remembers it. Or you have this tape on a tape recorder, and it's going over those rollers, and you're talking into it, and just in the second that it passed by, somehow, and that's a piece of Earth too, that little piece of tape in your tape recorder, it remembers. So wouldn't it be possible, isn't it highly probable, that you get a big piece of Earth that over not just 100th of a second, but over 1,000 years, millions of people come to doing two things. There's two things that happen at sacred sites. People say thank you, and people say please. If you boil it down, it's prayer and praise.
You know, I was once told that all the churches in England were built on ley lines.
And it's not true. What the answer to that one is, first of all, we have to be very careful of using a word like an absolute of all.
Okay, but I would like you to explain what a ley line is.
Well, in 1921, a guy named Alfred Watkins published a book called The Old Straight Track. And he had been sort of an antiquarian, and as he wandered around the countryside of England, every so often he would go and he'd visit these pre-Reformation pilgrimage cathedrals or the Reformation pilgrimage cathedrals and the Neolithic sites and different types of things, and he'd mark them on maps. And one day he was looking at his maps and he went, oh my gosh, you could draw straight lines between these. Wow. So he brought forth this notion that they were ley lines, which is a Roman word meaning commercial track. But they were movable. The Romans had ley lines that they were terrain specific. They went, you went in valleys. You didn't go over the top of a mountain, especially when you have some horses with you, you're carrying a cart of goods. So he later in his life, he stopped calling them ley lines and he just called them old straight tracks because he couldn't explain it. But now we know what it is a lot. There are meandering lines and there are straight lines, and the straight lines happen for a number of different reasons. It's a fascinating subject, too much to go into detail here in 30 minutes.
Okay,
but there are lines.
For a lay person, huh? No pun intended, like me, explain it.
Well, oh boy. Well, just as there are lines on the human body, the acupuncture meridian, they're not arrows straight.
Right.
But on the planet, some of you may have heard something called the Platonic solids in sacred geometry. Well, if you get like dodecahedron, icosahedron, if you get a bunch of these Platonic solids and you put them on the same center, where all the vertex points of those different Platonic solids hit the interior of the sphere of the Earth, will determine where some power places, not sacred sites, power places on the planet are located. Well, then there's logarithmic spirals going clockwise or counterclockwise coming out of those that when they intersect with other straight lines between these primary points, set up other points. So in antiquity, people found some of these. 72% of the surface of the earth is underwater. They found some of these, and they marked them with a variety of structures over thousands of years. And when certain religions came into those areas, they took over them. So we have sort of, ley lines, I don't use the term much. I don't think, and John Michel and Paul Devereaux and some of the top guys who write in this, they don't use it either. And the New Age movement has sort of done a disservice to the subject by talking, basically you cannot talk about ley lines. They're not important the way that people talk about them now.
But they're really like an energy center, right?
It's
supposedly.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I once went to an abbey in England when I did some traveling, and somebody said...
You remember which one? The name?
Can't remember, but it was it might have been in Varian. It was I don't know, it was falling apart. And somebody said, put your hand on the ground right where the pulpit was. And I did. And I put my hand on the ground and I started going like this. And all of a sudden, electricity came up in my hand, and I literally felt the energy there.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons I go. I like that.
So you get to do that in a lot of different places, right?
Oh, yeah. There's two really nice things I get about what I get to do is I get to be at these places with this wonderful, powerful energy, and also the view is very good. You've got to admit that. When you look at my pictures, you'll go, oh my gosh, that's really very pretty. Well, One time I was being interviewed years ago on NPR, and this one woman who was interviewing me, she had said, I think maybe you've stood in more beautiful view locations than anybody I've ever met. And that was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah, I've stood in a position where I got to have very beautiful views, lots of eye candy.
So two of the ways you're saying that that a place...
Are you showing any of these pictures while we're talking?
Well, we're going to in a second. But
because we only have about 15 minutes left. And the pictures are more beautiful than me.
Okay, well, yeah, but just to explain to our audience, there's one way that people feel energy is because of everybody's energy there. Like when I went to St. Francis of Assisi. Have you been there?
Yeah, it's Assisi, for sure. It's on the website. It might be one of those pictures.
Is it on there? Because I've never felt energy
I don't have
like...
Assisi on the ones I sent you. And my Assisi picture is so beautiful. I never felt energy
like I felt there. But then there's also what you're saying is a physical thing where the energy points where that really comes up like what I'm saying is there, as I said at the very beginning, that I've thought deeply about how do we explain the power of place? And I think there's 20 different factors. Right, so there's a lot.
Put into three major categories, and the three major categories are the power for a variety of reasons of the earth itself.
Okay, where were you most...
Let me finish. Let me say the three. There's the power of the earth. There's the power of the structures that people build. And that's where they're oriented and how they're oriented and how they're built with this misunderstood thing called sacred geometry. And the third is the power of human intention. Okay. The prayers that people pray when they're there, the intention of the builder, the ceremonies the priests and priestesses done. These three major categories of 20 different factors contribute to the power of place. It's not one or two things, it's a bunch.
Okay, that's well said. And which places have you felt most maybe peaceful or more energetic? What's your favorite place?
I don't use absolutes like most. What I would say is there's a variety of places that have a quality that when you're at them, there is a restfulness that you feel. There's other ones that's not the primary quality that you feel. So to me, and when people say, what's the most powerful? I go, there's no such thing as the most powerful acupuncture point on a very uncomplex system called the human body. Right. Well, on an enormously complex system called the earth, there is a super sophisticated set of energy fields that I'm talking about here, and there's no most. I would never use that word most in relation to talking about this. If you said, well, what are some ones that were important to you and why? Show some of those pictures because it's so much more beautiful, and then I can talk a little about those. Just pick one that's pretty to you, but so people can see the pictures and not me. I'm not important to look at. Show one of the pictures.
Okay, which temple?
And then tell me, else I won't know which one you show.
The Golden Temple in India.
Oh, see, now that is a beautiful place. When I was 12 years old, my dad was a diplomat, and he got transferred to Delhi, India, New Delhi, India. We lived for 4 years. And I grew up My father wasn't in archaeology, but he loved archaeology and photography. So here I am, 12 years old in India. He gives me this German camera, a Raleigh cord, and I just start taking pictures. And it's super safe, and it's not polluted at that time. Delhi's the most polluted city in the world right now. But it was so safe. And I just started traveling all over India on my own with my cameras. And I went when I was 12 years old, no, when I was 13 years, a little over 13. It was the first place I traveled to on my own was the Golden Temple in northwestern India at a place called Amritsar, which is that picture you're looking at. And the legend here, look, good legend. The legend says that if you bathe in that water, not with soap, you take these ritual immersions, you just stand in the water and maybe put some on your head. If you do that, here's the legend, it says, you will be granted infinite, forever union with God.
Wow.
Now somebody could say, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Or you could go, well, maybe it does. Maybe it does. Why do people say that? And why do people say that type of thing about these type of places all over the planet? Now the scientists will go, oh, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. But then I remind people, I say Augustine one time said, miracles do not happen in contradiction to nature, but in contradiction to what we know of nature. And there's a big mystery happening on this planet with these power places. A lot of them are recognized as sacred sites. What we have to look is beyond the religious part of it, beyond the sacred, and go, oh, these are places of power. These are places where human beings can do two things. They can plug into the power of the earth, and they can do planetary acupuncture on its ailing system. It is very, very good for us, you and I, our type of people, to go to these sites, irrespective of the religion, and just being there is an acupuncture treatment to the earth. So this energy goes both ways. It comes from us to the earth, and it goes from the earth to us, both ways. So it's very good for both parties in that relationship, the earth and the pilgrim, the earth and you.
It's a healing experience.
For both.
For both.
Yeah.
How about Afghanistan?
Well, now Afghanistan, I'm a historian, so I can talk for a long time just about the mythology, the archaeology, and the history in those orders. The history of Afghanistan has basically kind of been screwed over by the European powers and the so-called Great Game, and a lot of it is wanting political control of a certain area, which gives you political control and influence over a larger area. Well, it's suffered at the hands of the Western people, including Russia. And right now, it's really suffering at the hands of fundamentalist Islam, the Taliban. So it's a sad thing, but if you go to Islam, if you go to Afghanistan, there's this one place called Mazar-i-Sharif. It's called the Blue Mosque, and oh, is it beautiful. Oh, is it beautiful. It's hundreds of thousands of pieces of finely cut tile, according to geometry, of these beautiful shades of blue. It's one of the most beautiful shrines in the world, the Mazar-i-Sharif in Afghanistan. But it's a little sketchy to go there for some people. You know, it's not real easy to travel in some of these areas. That's not a type of place. I tell people if they've never traveled, oh, well, go start with Afghanistan. No, start with England. Start with maybe Scotland or maybe Italy. Get your feet wet learning how to travel.
What about Stonehenge?
Huh?
Stonehenge.
Well, Stonehenge is Stonehenge has an iconic position in the human mind. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, the Great Pyramid. But Stonehenge's iconic position in people's minds indicates to them something that's inaccurate. Stonehenge is important, but there's other sacred sites, other Neolithic, megalithic stone rings, like north of it, 70 miles north of Stonehenge is a place called Avebury, A-V-E-B-U-R. Much more significant and important than Stonehenge is. But Stonehenge has been made a big deal because it's the best looking of the large celestial observatories with the big stones.
Where are the Rollright stones?
They're near there. They're southeast of there. Those are pretty nice stones. That's a nice set of a smaller circle in pretty good shape. Yeah. And Paul Devereux. See, now that's really interesting. You bring up that because if you read some of the writings of Paul Devereux, he's one of the great English writers on it. And there was an energy monitoring study that was done over a number of years at that Rollright stone circle that conclusively proves there's something going on here that is beyond what science knows about. There's something at these sites, and there were bands. This is really interesting. On some of the stones, not only was there a monitorable energy at the stone, but there were bands of different frequencies of that energy along the one single stone. That's fascinating to me.
You know, I found, I don't even know, this is my own theory, and you can tell me if I'm crazy or if you ever thought of this, but at every place that had these big stones, I always find a big hill or mountain right near it, and some of them are man-made mountains.
Yeah, well, there's a number of things that can be said in response to that. Is some of them are mounds, and the mounds will, and Devereaux's got a good book just on this thing of near Avebury, right by Avebury, is the largest Neolithic construction really of Europe, but certainly of England, called Silbury, Silbury, Silbury Hill. And it was definitely placed there for a certain aid, AID, aid in making celestial, and that means solar, lunar, planetary, or stellar observations, both from its top and also using it as a sight line. So it's sort of like a sight, like when you use a rifle, you sight along a barrel. Well, they use that a lot, so they built some mounds. But also there are certain sacred sites are positioned in relation to certain mountains on the horizon. So both of those.
Like UFOs? Like, is that...
That's not something that is actually so important, or it doesn't really come into much. Zacharias Sitchin, he had a few things wrong, by the way, but it's not a big deal. UFOs don't figure in. The crop circle thing has happened up in the Avebury area, but UFOs don't figure into the myths of, or the stories of, or the iconography of at sacred site. You don't find that. No. I had one time at Devil's Tower in northeastern Wyoming, I had an interesting experience of some extraterrestrial presence. I've had that a few times, but generally that's not going on at sacred sites.
What about Mount Shasta?
Well, Shasta has that, which is interesting you bring that up, because Shasta is known for some really interesting sort of anomalies.
Right.
That there's some things about my phone's ringing. Let me put it under my leg.
No worries.
Yeah.
Because I had a crazy experience there that I'll share with you one day, if you want. But Shasta definitely has some weird energy going on there.
Yeah, Shasta
have
does.
You been
there?
I
did Shasta. I climbed Shasta to the top one day.
You did?
Yeah. In 1984, I began 4 years of going between hundreds of sacred sites on a bicycle. So I went and did Japan and Korea for 8 months by bicycle, and then I went and did Europe for a year and Mexico for 6 months by bicycle. Yeah, it was fun. Hard work.
So
Before I went to Japan, I went and climbed Mount Shasta.
Okay. Where are some of the most powerful sacred places in the United States?
Well, the thing about the problem with the United States is a lot of times we don't know about the location of sites unless human beings have left a structure there indicating it was a ceremonial, religious, mythic, whatever site of importance to them. The problem with the archaeological sites in the United States, first of all, they're at two ages. There's the stuff that's not so old, from basically 500 AD forward, and then the stuff that's really, really old, 3000, 4000, 5000 BC. Of the stuff that's not so old, they built in wood in the eastern areas, which has since decayed, in some stone in the western areas, like the Anasazi people, but they're not sophisticated. You know, I got to tell you this. Even with the Hopewell and the Adena mound building cultures in Ohio and Georgia and that type of stuff, none of it is sophisticated. You start getting some real sophistication when you get down into Mexico, and then we get into Bolivia, but the real sophistication in the sense of sacred geographies and sacred geometries at the sites is going to happen in Asia. The United States doesn't have, in a sense, of built structures at.
But what
on
about
my website,
Native
on my
American?
website, there's really good maps and a whole list of sacred sites, even in every state in the United States, where people can go and see that. But there's dozens and dozens of them. I can't say. Go to White Sands.
Native Americans,
show them the picture, the last picture on that list. White Sands.
White Sands?
Yeah, the very last picture on that list I sent you.
Where is this?
That's in New Mexico. That is a very interesting place. Okay, somebody could say, well, what do we know about that? And what we know about that is this place had a regional, not a hemispheric, but a big regional influence, a spiritual magnetism, a magnetism of something that drew people from central Mexico all the way up to Montana, came to this place as, and this is important, what it was called a vision quest site. Now, what does that mean? It means this is the type of place that people went to somehow, and I can't explain how, and just because I can't explain how doesn't mean it's not true. Somehow, some places affect some people by letting them somehow see into the future. I can't explain it. This is the type of place, and this one is a magnificent place also because it's the only gypsum sand dunes on the planet Earth. It's completely white. It's selenite. The largest selenite, it's a big selenite crystal, but it's all sand. There's only one thing happening here, one energy, selenite, nowhere else on the planet. And it's also this Vision Quest site, and it's in New Mexico. People can easily go. There's a national park, and you can camp there. It's almost free, like $8. Anybody that's in the Southwest should go to White Sands, and it's stunningly beautiful.
Did you have a vision when you were there?
Yeah, that's longer than we can say. You know, we're almost done with my 30 minutes, so.
Well.
And that's a big subject, these visions, these things of the future that I can talk about. Because about over a 25-year period, when I came to understand, like you've heard of Delphi.
Right.
When I came to understand what it means when you say an oracle site. There's 10 major oracle sites in the Greek Mediterranean world. I've been to all of them. I've also been to the 50 major oracle sites on the planet for a very specific reason of plugging in. Plugging in, opening the screen in my internal consciousness. Well, let's see. Is something shown to me here? Do I see something here? Why was this place? Why was Delphi? Why not 50 feet to the left or the right? Why? Because people had experiences over hundreds of years that slowly got encoded into myths and legends. And the archaeologists and the historians look at them and they can't understand it. They can't believe them, so they say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just pre-literate people imaginations. No, it means something. You just have to know how to read the myth, and that's what I'm really good at.
Do you ever take groups of people?
Never, because people, no. I used 2 years ago, I did it in the Southwest, but no. I don't, I don't
understand. What is your website?
Sacredsites.com.
Sacredsites.com. You are just filled with so much knowledge. You have so much to teach, so much to share.
Well, it's all on the website. Well, no, see, because I have some friends and they complain. They say, Martin, we never hear your stories. They're never on the website. You give all this, incredible scholarly information on mythology and archaeology, and you got those pretty pictures. But we don't know your stories. And your stories, some of my friends, we have a couple glasses of wine and they get some great stories. But otherwise, no, nobody hears these. I did about 250 slideshows over a 15-year period. I don't do them anymore. Though in October, I'm going to speak at a really cool conference in Korea.
Wow!
But I don't do slideshows, and I don't take people to these sites.
But you have documentaries, right?
No.
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 You've just documented everything with your pictures on your site. I just take
the pretty pictures of the places. That's what I do.
Yeah, but you have
because you see the photographs. They're not photographs to me. They're windows. So when somebody looks at one of these things, they're in a sense looking through a window into the place. So again, that visual homeopathic essence. I think some of your readers might know about homeopathy, or your listeners. Right. Homeopathy. Well, the visual homeopathic essence of these sites is transformed, transfixed, comes through those pictures between the viewer and the site. Yeah. And when I was taking the pictures, oftentimes there's this prayer in my heart saying, oh, spirit of the place, please. A lot of people aren't going to be able to come to these places. So please come, help me compose this image, help be in this photograph in such a way that you become a window. And so you can touch the people just by them looking at this window, this photograph I take. I really believe that.
You are so kind and so thoughtful and so caring.
Thank you.
Because most of us can't go to all these places and can't even afford to do that. But now when we look at your pictures, we can go on our own journeys because of what you've told us.
Yeah, see, I'm rich. I'm a billionaire, so I can go to these places. No. There's been some real challenge, some difficulty. Yeah, pilgrimage is not made to necessarily always be easy. I just came back 10 days ago. I came back. I was 2 months in Mongolia, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan.
Wow.
Yeah. Stayed in 45 different places in those 5 countries. Yeah. It's a good journey. Difficult sometimes.
So you'll have new photos for us next time.
In about 3 weeks, probably the new web pages will be up about those. I visited Uzbekistan 12 years ago, 14 years ago, and it photographed some things. This time I photographed some other places, and now, there's some nice pictures. Yeah.
Well, you really taught me a lot, and you made me also think about how special everyone's home is to themselves, and the energy that we put and the love we put in our homes and our religious places and our special little gardens. And
Gardens are important. If you go travel in Belarus in Ukraine, you'll go, wow, there are so many gardens here. Belarus is just amazing. There's gardens everywhere, beautiful gardens. Belarus is such a beautiful place.
well, I am going to take another look at your pictures when I'm on my own and go on a journey on my own vacation. It's going to save me a lot of money.
Yeah, and then here's the last thing. Tell
What?
people when they look at the pictures on sacredsites.com or in my books, they can also consult them like an oracle. They could say, okay, I'm going to look at these, and if there's a place that would be good for me to go, reach out to me, pull on me somehow, so I'll go, it's just like throwing the I Ching or the tarot or something like this. Consult the pictures on my website or in my books as an oracle, and then there's maybe a place that would be really good, and then it's fun to go. They're always beautiful. Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here and taking us on this journey.
Thank you. Good questions. Lovely day to you. Bye.
Take good care. Don't go away. When we come back, it's Yogi Cameron. If you like what you've seen on CharVision, then go to char.net and book a personal reading with me, or join a group reading, or join one of my workshops where I teach you to be psychic and intuitive. Welcome back. I'm very happy right now because I have somebody sitting with me who's very centered, and because I feel people's energy, it's really a pleasure to have you here. It's Yogi Cameron, and you were saying that you live in a forest?
Part of the time, my wife and I live in a forest in India. Yeah, and there's a very sacred temple there, and we go there to do our own practices, and it's very centering.
So you've been on Dr. Oz and in the Today Show, and so what's it like to go from the forest to the jungle?
Kind of the same.
Yeah?
Different animals. You know? So
Right.
it's very calming and peaceful in the forest, but it's not life. So you have to bring that calm and peace and live it here, and if you can, then you have the balance. It's no good kind of living it there and then coming here and kind of freaking out.
It's good to have both, right?
Yeah, it's good to have both. If you want to live here, you know.
And you were a model, and I mean,
Yeah.
I can see why. You're very handsome.
Yes.
And so, what made you become a yogi?
I had a mentor for about 14 years when I was a model back in the 90s, and he put me on this path. And then when he passed in the year 2000, I really needed a teacher to guide me. And I went to India and I found a guru there, and he started to train me in yoga and Ayurvedic medicine. And that was about 14 years ago. So from my mentor to my guru, I've sort of been mentored and led.
What kind of medicine?
Ayurvedic medicine.
And what is that?
It's the Indian system of medicine. So it's kind of the origin of all natural medicine.
Like an example.
We deal with the elements. So all things are elements. So fire, earth, and air. And those mixtures in our body, in your dog, in the table, Ayurveda says when they're in balance, everything is good. When they're imbalanced, then you have the start of...
So you really practice what you preach, don't you?
You have to, yes.
You do.
Yeah.
You walk the walk.
Well, you have to if you teach it. If you know, in what you do, you have to walk the walk. Otherwise, you lose that power.
You do have to.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a difference between a doctor, let's say, who... Ayurvedic doctor doesn't need to walk the path. He can just prescribe.
Right.
Whereas yogis, we have to live the path.
And what kind of healing do you do most?
I help you to really heal yourself, right? So everybody has the guide, the guru, the spirit in them. And it can heal you in a second or give you a tremendous disease in a second. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's profound.
Well, yeah, because the spirit is whatever you want to call it, God or, you know, the higher power.
So is it you are what you think? You are what you eat? You
Partly,
are what
but partly it's that, but also there's karma. So on one level, you have to go through karma. And karma doesn't mean bad things. It just means there's a reaction to every action taken. That's all karma is.
I really try to have good sharma. But seriously, what goes around comes around.
Absolutely.
And I completely agree with you. And I find sometimes that the ego can get in the way of certain healers. And then when that happens, it
Well,
messes
as
it
soon
all
as you
up.
think you're doing the healing, then the ego enters. When you know that you're facilitating and energy passes through you, but the other person already has their own energy because you're coming from the same source, then you're really facilitating, but you can't really heal somebody if they're not supposed to be healed, for example. So you can't say, I can heal everybody, you know, and I'm not really healing you, I'm just facilitating your healing.
So what kind of advice would you give our listeners and viewers? Just, I know it's probably hard because we're all individuals, but what should people look for first?
Ayurvedic principle is basically digestion. How is your digestion? If your digestion isn't working well, your whole body is off, right? Because that fire breaks up toxicity, gives you nutrition, gives you energy, and it gets rid of toxicity out of the body. If that's not happening well, everything's off. So always protect your digestion.
And what about, they're always saying drink a lot of water. Is that, or that really doesn't matter?
Yeah, all the modern stuff, you know, people ask me, what about ancient stuff? Is that, you know, it's kind of off, isn't it? Isn't it, that was good for then? Well, it's not. The sun is still up, the earth is still round, you know, air is still there, you need to sleep. All the basics are exactly the same way. And our bodies function in the same way. So you need some sleep, you need everything in the right order, in the right quantity, according to what you need, not
and
what
our body
I need.
tells us what we really need,
Completely,
doesn't it?
Completely. It's the mind that keeps telling you you need something else.
Right, and our body also tells us what agrees with us food-wise and what doesn't.
Completely.
Right?
Right? Yeah, look at those ads that say, you know, oh, I really can't eat pizza, it's really bad for me. Oh, but hey, I've got the solution, I'll take this. But the body's telling you, I don't like what you're already doing, why are you going to give me something else, you know, to try to put it right?
I once dated a doctor, and when my stomach wasn't feeling right, he said, always lay on your right side. Because that's where, I don't know why, but for some reason...
Because the male energy sits on the right-hand side of the body, and the female energy sits on the left.
Oh.
And you need the male hot energy, the solar energy, for digestion. So as soon as you lean on the right, you start to recover. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so first is digestion.
Yeah.
Okay, now what would the next step be for us?
Well,
we got a lot of work to do.
Well, on a physical level, it's digestion. On a mental level, it's to start to understand yourself. Self-study is a big part of Ayurvedic and yogic path. Is, do you actually know much about yourself? You know, because you all have a slightly different inclination than somebody else, and you'll be best suited to sort of stick to one path than another. But people like to cross paths all the time. They're like, yeah, but I love this, but I love that. Well, you love both of them, but it's kind of, let's say, for example, people come to me for consultations.
Right.
And they say, but, you know, I really love to do this. And I say, well, what do you love about it? Well, I think I should do that. Well, why do you think you should do that? Well, you know, my neighbor told me I would be great at that. So actually, when you get down to the bottom of it, they don't even believe in it. They just think they should be doing it.
You know, I find if something's bothering me, I go to a psychologist.
Okay, well, that's very mental, right?
Right.
Above mental is intellect, something higher. So, and then you, of course, know about intuition.
Right.
And that's even higher than intellect.
Right.
So, mental is sort of, you got body, then you got mental, then you got intellect, then you've got
So you're talking about
intuition.
different dimensions,
levels,
different levels of energy that we live with.
Yeah.
Different than chakras.
Well, chakras are energy points.
Right, energy points, right. So there's different energy levels we live with.
Exactly.
So the first one
is the body, is the basic body.
The second one
is the mental level.
The mental level.
And
then the third one is the intellect?
Intellect. And then above that is intuition.
Is intuition, and is there anything beyond that?
Yeah, many levels above that.
I find as an intuitive, and I've read for people for over 40 years, that when we get to intuition, it's important to keep not just balanced, but protected energetically, because I've found by living this work that there's good and bad on the other side. So what do you suggest to make sure everything's pure and protected and energetically positive?
Well, it's not always, right?
Right, but what do you do to make sure to get to the positive?
Okay. I do spiritual practice every day. So
Okay.
beyond everything, beyond children and wife and dogs and life and everybody else, the most important thing is get out of bed, take a shower, do spiritual practice. And that means a few hours of yoga, meditation, breathing practices, reading, and centering in something higher than the mind. Because the mind is a beast that will collect information and then regurgitate it, right? Because
Right.
the mind doesn't know the present and it doesn't know the future. It only knows the past, so it keeps talking about the past, right? It's
Right.
like your old grandmother who
Right.
keeps going, you remember that time?
Yeah,
I
right.
love that time.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So the mind you can't trust. You've got to go into higher levels. So that is my way of getting in there.
Right. Well, I always say that some people have physical baggage in their lives and some people have energetic baggage in their lives.
Sure.
So when we're close to someone that we love, like you have kids, you have a wife,
Yeah.
like if they have any energetic baggage, how do
Yeah.
you address that?
I just ignore them. No, I'm kidding. Well, it's dealing with life as it is, not changing life. So the spiritual practice grounds you, so when the wind blows, you can deal with it, right? If
Right.
everybody around you has their thing going on, it's totally fine. It's when you're ungrounded that everybody else's stuff bothers you. But if you're
well, now repeat that. That's
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah.
Say that again.
When you're grounded, everybody else's stuff doesn't bother you. It's only when you're ungrounded that you get bothered by everybody else, right?
Or we allow other people to upset us.
Completely, but
And
only
unground us.
when we're ungrounded emotionally, physically,
Right.
mentally, all of that. We get bothered by people and things that they're doing, but actually nobody's doing anything to bother us. It's we are bothered.
We're allowing it to bother
Exactly.
us, right?
Yeah. So first we always ground ourselves, and then everything else is okay, right? But in our world, we're trying to change
And
everybody
have you
else.
taught your kids this?
Yes, I have, and they told me to shut up many times. You know what it's like.
Right.
So you can't tell a 17-year-old what's going on. They are telling you what's going on.
So you're giving away something to our listeners. Could you please explain that? Because that's so kind of you and generous.
Oh, absolutely. It's a mantra set. I have a mantra CD, meditation CD on the site. So before you start to do...
And what is the site?
The site is yogicameron.com. And which
YOGI.
YOGICAMERON.com.
Okay.
Yogi Cameron.
Okay.
And the booklet is a beginning of 5 mantras to do. And these mantras are very powerful if you start to do them. You see, many people ask me, give me a powerful mantra. And I say, all mantras are powerful. It's just the power in them is in repetition of them. So if you do them every day and
Right.
you do them as part of your practice, they are powerful. They kind of unravel. But if you don't do them, they're not powerful.
Thank you so much for being here. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
my
you have
pleasure.
so much to share, and I think it's great that you're giving away this special offer on our show. And what is it again?
It's a meditation booklet, which gives you 5 different mantras. And if you like that and you want to practice more, there's the meditation CD.
And they can go to yogicameron.com / CharVision.
Yes.
Got it?
It's right in the corner.
Okay, it's in the corner there. We ask the universal consciousness that holds the highest spiritual power of knowledge, wisdom, and truth to guide and protect us as we communicate with our guides and angels in the spirit world and tap into the wisdom of the universe. We respect this opportunity and take full responsibility to use this not for ego or controlling others, but with the pure intention of spreading love and healing life on this earth and beyond. Okay, I see an M initial. Do you have family that's an M or an A?
Yeah, first names. Sure.
Is that your mom?
Well, there's a Miriam.
Don't say names.
Oh, don't say names,
Is that
sorry.
who's Miriam?
Miriam is my grandmother.
Your
actually.
grandma. Is she deceased?
She's not.
She's living. Okay.
living.
And there's another M or A?
There is a few M's. Let's see.
Okay, is there a male M?
Just in family, in total?
Or do you have someone close to you that's a male M? Or anyone you work with that's a male M? Or is there another M female, like a... Is there a male M around you?
There are a few, definitely.
Is there like a Mike or...
There is a Mike.
Who is he? Do you work with him?
Well, there's an interesting story. I mean, close to me, he actually just recently had a heart attack, actually. Like
He did?
a couple days ago. Yeah, it's pretty serious.
I was going to say, is it iffy?
It's, well, I've been told it's not as iffy, thank God. He's still
That he's better?
He is better, he's getting better. This is what I was
Are you
told.
going to visit him, or?
I'd like to, probably
How do you know
later.
him? Did you work with him?
He's a very good friend of the family, actually.
Of your family?
Of my family, yes.
Is there a family business?
There is a family business, and I've worked for a family business.
You have?
Yes.
Are you working for a family business? Is this someone else's family business?
It was my family, but a cousin.
Right. Okay, and are you not there now?
I'm not there now, no.
You're done with the family business?
Yeah, this is all the East Coast, actually.
Okay, got it. I think it's good you stopped working there. No, but I think they loved you, and I think it was great that you were there. But I think you needed to move on.
Oh, yes.
Are you pursuing more of your dream or what you really want to do?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Is it more of a creative thing, what you want to do, or?
Yes, it is totally creative.
Okay. Are people like wondering why you're pursuing it in your family? Are people not understanding this?
I think so, to some degree, but then I have a lot of support, thankfully, around me.
Okay, no, it's good, and I think it's good for you to
to
pursue what it is you want to pursue.
Oh, there's another big M I was just thinking about, too.
What, deceased?
Deceased, yeah. I don't know why it didn't come to me, but yeah.
That's okay. Is the M a female?
Female, yes.
And is that spelled M-A or M-I?
It's M-I.
With an L, but it starts M-I.
It's M-I, and
Don't say the rest of it,
yeah,
but it starts M-I.
It starts M-I.
But there's not an R in that name. It's not, or
last name.
Or an L in it. It's not like a Minnie or...
It's very close.
Minna? Mimi?
It's very, yeah, that's very close.
Mima? Mimi? What is it?
It's Mickey.
Mickey, close enough. Who is that?
That is my grandmother, who I never really got to meet.
Was that not her real name?
That was not her real name.
It was another name that was M.I. though, right? Or her nickname was M.I. Okay. Gosh. I think your grandma's around you. I'm just not hearing it exactly right.
I do believe that.
And I feel like she's watched over you.
My mom has told me that many times.
Your mom says...
Versus the other two.
Is that her mom?
That is her mom, yes.
And your mom has said that she keeps, like, she's like an angel for you, watches over you.
Yeah,
I feel that.
She has felt that before, too.
I feel that. Your mom's instincts are good. Her intuition is good.
I believe that.
Do you ever write?
In what ways?
Do you ever write, like, do anything creative with writing?
Yes, but not with, not like with words.
With music? Okay. I feel like you have. Are you going to be with someone who writes words for music? Are you collaborating?
Yes.
I feel like you need to do this. Are you just in the process of it, or you've been doing it?
No, we've been pretty serious.
And have you been in recording studios?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like there's potential. Are you trying to get into a niche?
Yes, to some degree.
Like a certain niche of music that may not be the most popular kind of music, but a niche that has a good following.
Yes.
That's what I see you doing. Do you sing at all?
I do not claim to be a singer.
You write music.
Yes.
Can you sit down at a piano and play, like, without ever having lessons?
Yes, I have. I did once upon a time, and then I did have lessons.
Yeah, but you could sit down and play with never having lessons.
Yes.
You have a natural gift. You know what your gift? You brought this gift with you from another lifetime. Do you know that? No,
I've never been told that.
I'm telling you that.
It's good to hear.
That's why you're so good with music. Because it's not like you really studied it that much when you were still really good at it.
Interesting.
You brought, many times we bring knowledge with, like I know I was a psychic in another lifetime. There's no way I could do what I've done for 40 years and when I was 20 doing this. I know I brought knowledge from another lifetime. And I feel the same with you. You brought knowledge from another lifetime and you're adapting to it in this lifetime as well. And that's why you love it. Because you never, I feel like in a past life you never completed or completed your mission with your music. And that's why you're pursuing it now and completing it now. Well, thank you for trusting me.
Thank you, of course.
You're adorable.
This is great.
You're
Thank you.
adorable.
Thank you
Just
so much.
adorable. Thank you.
And so,
That's
so
Sunny.
you and your dog.
That's Sunny who says
Yes.
thank you. Okay, you get a hug too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just had a reading with Char, and it went really well. I was really impressed, and it was a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it. She brought up a lot of different stories that kind of gone through my life. She brought up a lot of things that I'm actually pursuing right now. I thought that was very interesting. And if she hadn't brought it up, I was kind of hoping she brought it up coming into here. So I'm really glad she kind of talked about that. A great reading, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week on CharVision.